Now we are going to process an EFT batch. One important thing to note is that if we have an EFT batch to process and a check batch, it is important to process the EFT batch first, then process the check batch. The reason for this is that Adagio will allow all EFT-enabled vendors to be paid by check if the user wants to, but will not allow non-EFT-enabled vendors to be paid by EFT, which makes sense if you work that through. We cannot pay vendors without bank accounts by EFT. To begin an EFT payment run, click on Check Run or the Payments tab and then choose System Checks. The process between Adagio 9.3b and 9.3a are slightly different. In Adagio 9.3b, we are taken to a listing of all active system check runs. In our data, we don't have any active runs, but we will now create one by clicking on New. Adagio will now prompt us to choose which bank we want to pay this EFT from. To change from the default, we can click on the magnifying glass to see a listing of all banks that could be used. This could be changed at any time prior to posting these EFTs. When we click on OK, it will take us to the System Check Run window. If we were using 9.3a, we will be taken to the screen automatically when we choose Check Run. In the System Check Run, we will need to choose the check date. This is the date payments will be taken from a selected bank account. This cannot be a date in the past for an EFT run. Ensure there is a check mark beside the Create EFT Payments option. If we don't need to filter our list in any way, take any invoice that is currently in our system into payment, then we can ignore the control account, vendor, report group, and vendor payment dollar amounts. The due date on or before option gives us a way to pay only items that are due before a specific date. For instance, if today is April 24th and we don't expect to be making payments again until May 1st, we could change this date to April 30th to take into payment any invoice that has a due date of April 30th or earlier. This gives us some control to ensure that we never run into a situation where we are late with our payments. Let's click on the Payments tab to get to the details of what we will be paying by EFT. To start with, there will be no details on this list. However, if we click on Generate, it will populate the window with invoices that are still outstanding and eligible to be paid with EFT. Adagio 9.3b will give us a list of all vendors that have invoices outstanding, and the total amount of those invoices in that top section. By selecting one of the vendors, you will see all the invoices that are outstanding in the bottom section. If you are using Adagio 9.3a, you will not see this list broken up by vendor. It will sort the list by vendor, but will show all the invoices. If you have some payments that you do not want to pay, you can right-click on the invoice in the bottom section and choose to clear those payments. If you would like to pay only a specific amount, you can double-click on the invoice and edit the gross payment option and enter a specific amount. If you had cleared the payment and want to reset the payment to pay the entire invoice, you can right-click on the invoice again and choose Pay. There are some other options as well to clear all invoices and to pay all invoices if desired. Once you are happy with the invoices that will be paid based on this list, you can click on the EFT and Post button. This brings up a confirmation window that allows you to back up and post the batch. Click on that button to create the backup and then start posting the batch. This brings up the EFT check run window. It asks us to specify the next check number, to sort the checks, and things of that nature. However, since we are just creating an EFT payment, we do not need to make any changes here. We could preview our payments. However, to continue our process, we should click on the EFT button. This brings up the batch creation window. Click on Generate to generate the EFT file. Depending on the settings chosen when setting up the bank and EFT providers, this will create the EFT file and possibly open the browser to the financial institution website where you can upload the EFT to the bank. If it does not open the website, you will need to navigate to that site to upload the EFT to it. If we want to look at the EFT file generated, we can click on View. This will display a text file that will show the information that will be sent to the bank when uploaded. If you look at this file long enough, you may be able to see the amount being paid, the bank account of our payee, our bank account, and so on and so forth. We should not be editing this file, as there are a number of check figures built in to ensure that it is more difficult for accidental or other types of changes to the file. Once we've uploaded the file to the appropriate financial institution, we can close the EFT batch creation window. Adagio 9.3b asks whether this batch was generated and submitted correctly. We have three options. Yes, it was processed correctly. If we answer yes, it will post the batch in payables and will send the journal entry to the ledger for posting there as well. No, there was an error. This will give us an opportunity to recreate the EFT batch. Essentially, it brings us back to the EFT check run window and we can redo it. Park tells Adagio that we aren't sure if it has been done correctly or not yet. We might choose this option if we aren't sure if the bank has approved the EFT we sent. If we choose to park, it is essentially like a pause button. We will be given the option to come back at a later date to answer yes or no. If we answer park and want to come back at a later date to post this batch, we can go back to the Active System Check Runs window and select the parked batch. You can double click on it, select Resume, and you will be given the same options that we just talked about. Once we are confident that our EFT run has been submitted correctly, we can answer yes. This will create doc storage files, if you have doc storage enabled, and it will post the batch. It will send information to the ledger, and it will post to the individual vendors inside Adagio Payables.